There we go.
Right.
All right, you think we're ready to start? And it can people can put things in the chat, right?
Yes, they can.
Okay. All right. So first of all, thank you all for coming. I can't see all of you, but I am grateful to all of you for joining us tonight. We have a couple people here that I want to introduce to you. And then we've established sort of a moderated format to answer some of the questions that folks have already sent in. And then as the time comes to a conclusion with answering those questions, we will open the chat up and have people ask their questions. We've allocated an hour to do this, so I think we'll do our best to try to meet everybody's needs in that hour. I am Elizabeth Kaufman. I am your superintendent. I welcome those of you who haven't joined us before in Mill Valley and welcoming you to what will be an amazing experience for your children. This is my 13th school district and absolutely the best place I've ever worked. So, you know, I'm a mom of 3 kids, and I remember the journey of trying to figure out where to put my twins for kindergarten at the time, and it's somewhat terrifying. And I think I probably decided well after the final deadline, just because I couldn't decide. So recognize that we know you're entrusting us with your most precious assets, and we do an amazing job for kids here. So welcome aboard, and hopefully we'll have the opportunity to find out a little bit about you as we go through the evening. But I want to make sure we have the chance to answer your questions first. So team, do you want to introduce yourselves? I'll maybe call on Sid next, and then we can go around and people can introduce themselves.
Yeah. Thank you. My name is Sid Vanchanathan. You've probably seen my name on the WhatsApp group chat, probably way too much, because me, Michael, Alexa, Jordan, bunch of other folks, Ian, have been bringing this group together over the past couple of months to really see if we can bring back TK for 25-26. I have 2 kids, one 7-year-old that is in 1st grade, had the experience of going through TK at Edna McGuire, and it was a great experience. So we were really looking forward to having that with our daughter. And I think when I first reached out to Elizabeth, like back in January with this idea, she was like, wait, talk to Alexa because she's thinking exactly the same. And then that's how, this whole thing started. And here we are 3 months down the road. And I think quite a lot of progress. I just want to say that, I think it's very easy to shit on the school district and everybody here, the superintendent. They have a really tough job balancing all of the needs of the various groups that they need to satisfy, students, parents, teachers, and making sure to do all of that with and having enough money to pay for everything. And we really appreciate the partnership that the school district has provided to find the pathway to bring this program back for 25-26. And very recently, just as of last Monday, adjusting our goal to 1.8 million, which was, I think, a significant step to getting closer to making this happen. We're almost at 1.3 million with another 500K to go, and a heartfelt thanks to all of the parents, everybody that's contributed so far, everyone that's going to do so. Huge thanks to Kiddo for the sizable donation, and yeah. Hopefully this is a useful session to answer all of the questions. Excited to be here.
Thank you. Sharon, do you want to jump in?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Sharon Nakatani, school board president. I would love to know, I'm looking at the attendees list because I just wasn't sure who was going to be here. And I noticed that we have a lot of, we have some teachers and we've got some district office. And so it'd be great if people in the chat, because, if we could kind of identify who in the chat is here for specific questions about TK and have potential TKers. So that would be great to know. But nice to meet you all and thank you.
Natalie?
I'm Natalie Katz. I'm vice president of the school board, and I also have 2 kids in the district, one 7th grader at the middle school and a 5th grader at Edna McGuire.
Michael, you want to jump in?
Sorry. So first of all, you guys have heard me talk a few times, and I appreciate you all for bringing us together tonight. As Sid mentioned, you guys were so gracious to bring the number down to 1.8 million, and we are very grateful of that. We're in the final 16 days to get there. And I just want to put a note out for all parents that are kind of sitting on the fence right now, right? Or undecided. Ideally, in today's forum, we really get down to some of those questions, right? And when we do get down to some of those questions, we will ideally answer some of the hesitations that people might have. But I want to address something that I think we haven't been talking about. This is not a small amount of money, right, that we're asking for people to put in. And it's probably the worst time of the year to ask for this amount of money. We all have our second property tax payments. We all have our federal taxes that are due around this time. And so we're extremely grateful for people coming together at what is one of the hardest times typically in people's finances throughout the year outside of the holidays, right? And so again, I think that the PSA that we want to put out there is in our conversation earlier with EK and the team here this week, they want to work with us, right? They truly want to work with us, and that's why we're here right now. And so as part of working with us, if you are one of those individuals that the balance sheet is just not working for you to put the money in right now, but you know that you can in 6 weeks, or you know that you can in 8 weeks, please feel free to reach out to myself or Sid, and let's talk about what that means, because we can easily pop that in 6 or 8 weeks, right? And I just want to let everybody know that, like, yes, we have a hard deadline, but if there's a few of us that are struggling to figure out what that looks like immediately, let's just work as a community to make that come together, right? And I just want to put that out there.
Thank you. Paula, you want to introduce yourself quickly?
Hi, I am Paula Renier, and I am the fairly new Assistant Soup of Business Operations and Technology. I've been here since the end of July, and I would have to say, as in being in several districts in Marin, the way that this community has rallied for this amazing program is, it's amazing. You don't see that. You wouldn't see that anywhere else, even in Marin. So I'm really grateful for us coming together. I'm hoping that this is a sign of the future, that we can all come together for a lot of things. So yeah.
Erin, do you want to jump in? And then Kate, then Anna.
Hi, I'm Erin Conklin. I'm one of the directors here at the district office, and I'm just here to support the team and happy to welcome you all to the district.
Kate.
Hi, I'm Kate Sprague. I'm the Director of Educational Services here at the district office and also here to support the team.
And then Anna.
Hi, Anna Russell. I'm the Executive Assistant to Elizabeth, and I'm also here, like the other directors, to support you and everybody who's putting in this great effort.
Welcome. Well, I think the format we have set up, and I want to make sure it looks like there might be some parents in the Mill Valley Library and VMS Library. So I hope they're not just left alone there. Maybe we should check on them. But we decided to do a Zoom because we wanted to have the opportunity to record the format and get it out to families sooner than tomorrow at noon. So again, Sid's gonna run me through some questions that families had asked, and then I'll do my best to answer. There are times where I won't always be able to get out ahead of a decision or answer on behalf of the board because we need to have board action together. So as a superintendent, I can share some information, but again, we are a governance team of 6 people, and we speak with one voice when we're together in a room together. So Natalie and Sharon are here as well to share their perspectives as individual trustees. We wanted the community to see support for transitional kindergarten, and under the rules that govern school boards. There's something called the Brown Act, and if we have more than 2 trustees in a conversation about an issue, it becomes a de facto meeting, and it's a violation of the Brown Act. So they're here as individuals, and not speaking on behalf of the board. I am speaking as the superintendent, who is one individual who works for a board. So, all right, let's go.
Great.
I'll do my
Awesome.
best.
Perfect. So we have 7, let's call them topics, with sort of a few questions in there, and we gathered these based on polling from the group chat and just questions that we've been getting, over the last couple of weeks as well. So jumping right in, the first one is about the TK program itself. So what is really the curriculum of TK? Why TK? What do the routines of TK look like? The goals of the program?
So, and I'll refer people to our website too, because there is on our TK page, all of these FAQs are there. Transitional kindergarten is really part of the first part of a 2-year kindergarten program. And over the years that it's been offered, it has evolved to a more preschool learning standards foundation. So a developmental play-based program where students really focus on the social emotional learning experiences, orienting themselves to a campus, being around larger groups of older children, and really developing those interpersonal relationships and routines of the day that help them transition into kindergarten. And like our kindergarten program, there is a focus on fine and gross motor, and it is a full day program in our district, which is, not typical of all districts. And so really it's a parallel to the K-Day, with the opportunity for students to participate still in some of the enrichment that we offer through art, music, dance, physical education, and just get kids ready to join kindergarten as sort of a little bit of a jump start, but definitely more focused on preschool than what we would consider an academic program.
Great. And what you mentioned, paralleling the K timings. What specifically are those timings?
Generally, and someone will have to jump in who knows the day better. It's like about 8:30 to 2:30 with generally 8:20 to 2:30 with an early release on Wednesdays, which I believe is about 1:45.
1:45, yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Anyone, I don't know if anyone else wants to add in, or we just keep going, Elizabeth?
Go. We'll just keep going.
Okay. All right. And yeah, if anyone has questions, please throw them in the chat. I think we're keeping an eye on those as well, so we'll keep answering them as we go. All right. The second one is, and I think this has been an important issue for a lot of folks, which is the placement of the school, right? So what is really the process that you go through to determine which campus, how many classes in which campuses, and how do students get placed in the respective campuses?
So we have 5 elementary school campuses. One elementary school campus, Old Mill, does not have facilities for both TK and kindergarten. So we hold two kindergarten classes there. And just if you're new to our district, what we typically do is have 2 classes. We start with 2 classes of kinder at Old Mill, Park, and Strawberry Point. And then we're trying to start with 3 classes of kinder at Tam Valley and Edna. So that's sort of the way our configuration goes. Based on our projection, we could have anywhere between 11 or 12 TK classes. Again, when we look at the world of potential 4-year-olds who have their 4th birthday by September 1st, our kindergarten class usually is about 240 kids. And so we could have up to 12 classes of 20 in our TK world. And so we basically say, how many spaces do we have available per site? And, where's the proximity to a bathroom? Where's the proximity to a hallway? Some of the facilities regulations that we have, and then we distribute them across campuses. So, some campuses have more space than others for TK, for the expanded TK. And that's one of the things we're looking at right now is we're potentially up to 14 classes in 27, 28, or 20, maybe it's 26, 27. There's a bubble that's coming through. So we do our best to balance, you know, ideally we'd have 2 at each campus, with the exception of Old Mill. Some campuses we may need to have more. It depends on if we have an extra 3rd grade, or, you know, some of our campuses have 2 classrooms for learning centers. So really it's based on space available. And then unlike our elementary K-5 program, where you have a neighborhood school, because Old Mill doesn't offer a TK, we sort of distribute those programs across. Obviously, we try to give priority to siblings to the extent we can, but we're also clear that as this program has grown from 3 classrooms to 7 classrooms to potentially 14 classes, that it may not be your neighborhood school where we fit, you know, 20 kids. So we're just trying to be super transparent about that. But the distribution, we think, will be some at every campus. It's just some classes, some schools may have 3, some schools may have 4, as we move forward.
And just to add in, that's similar to if your kid's in daycare, preschool, obviously you're going to a different site from the elementary school. So it's harder to process if it's part of the school district, but I would think of it that same way in the event that you have kids at 2 separate schools. And Elizabeth, I apologize if I missed it, but you also slightly stagger the drop-off and pickup schedules for the kids who may be at a different site from where their siblings are, to enable families to be able to make it to a different location to get all of their kids on time.
Great. And just maybe to pull a couple of points out, in terms of likelihood or probability of getting to a school that is nearby you, or is where maybe an older sibling already goes to, you said you will try your best to do that, but it's not guaranteed, but there is a good chance that that is the case, right?
We'll try. I mean, with siblings for sure. It's just, again, sometimes there was a group last year where there were so many siblings for Tam Valley that we couldn't get the children who didn't have siblings in for almost an entire grade level. So again, I don't know, and I'm careful not to overpromise, right? Because I don't want to have to take anything back.
Sounds good. All right. Next topic, which is, I think, one of the pieces that makes the TK program what it is in terms of the quality, are the credentialed teachers. So what does credentialing mean? Why are credentialed teachers part of TK? And then, given what had to happen this year in terms of canceling the program and the layoffs and so on, what is the plan for ensuring that a good group of teachers is available for TK?
Great. And Aaron, feel free to jump in at any time. So
can I just add on, there was a question in the chat that's related to this, which is what happened on the 3/15 layoff date with the TK teachers, and would we keep them if TK goes through? So maybe those can be connected to this question.
Yep, thank you. So in elementary school, when we teach in an elementary school environment, you have what's called a multiple subject credential. And that means you can teach multiple subjects in a self-contained class, right? So I can teach TK through 5th grade generally. And when we hire not for a specific grade level necessarily. Like when you come to work for the district, you're credentialed to teach any of the grade levels at elementary school. And, we hire you to do that. 1 year you might be 2K, one year you might be 5th grade, and so that's the nature of the credentialing. There is a specialization for transitional kindergarten, which the state is given, it keeps ratcheting it up, but I don't know really how likely it's going to be that they're going to be able to fill fully credentialed preschool teachers. In addition, if you're teaching TK, ideally, you also have some early childhood education units. That is not part of the general education program for multiple subject teachers, and it would be a voluntary addition that anybody would need to have. So recognizing there's 46,000 TK kids in the state, finding that many staff as we go to a 1 to 10 ratio is going to be or 1 to 20 ratio is going to be challenging. So, but what we do have is fully credentialed teachers. And in connection to the layoff, the layoff isn't by credential. I mean, it isn't by grade level, right? So the layoff is based on seniority. So you take, your most senior, you list your most senior multiple subject teacher all the way down to your least senior multiple subject teacher. And it doesn't have anything to do with what grade level they're teaching. So the people who are staying are the people who are most senior. In this case, any employee who we had retained in the district, who is on a layoff list, would be eligible to return to teach TK if they so choose, right? If TK is reenacted. So hopefully that's answering that question. It's not credential specific. It's really at the will. First of all, I mean, not grade specific, but credential is a general credential. And then again, it would be at the choice generally of a teacher who wanted to choose to teach TK. Again, some of them have the preschool foundation, so we would place them there. Erin, did you want to add anything?
The other thing I would add, just because most folks live in a corporate world where layoffs are very different than in the education world, we are required, when looking at any sort of layoff process in public education, you are required by March 15th to issue what is called preliminary or precautionary layoff notices. So that is what was delivered both to certificated and classified staff by March 15th, was those preliminary and precautionary layoff notices. No layoffs become final by May 15th. So at this point in time, folks have been notified that they may potentially be laid off, but those final notices aren't issued until May. And obviously, like if we operate TK next year, that will change the scope of what that layoff landscape looked like. And I think that's a little important for folks to know, just because it's very different than the way layoffs are handled in a corporate setting.
And that was also material for us in giving a timeline, partly because it's challenging to hire later in the year, but we knew at the May board meeting we would need to have those layoffs organized, so we needed to give advance notice. We needed to know in advance to mobilize our system, so that's why there's the April deadline as well. There's a question about non-reelect. I can speak. I won't speak specifically about individual staff, but there is a process. Do you want to speak to non-reelects? I could do it but you can if you want. It's your world.
Again, in California Ed Code, during teachers for their first 2 years of service in any district are considered to be probationary, and at any time within those first 2 years, again, the notification date is by March 15th, a district may issue to probationary teachers non-reelection notices, which means that the teachers will, the district will not be renewing their contract for that following school year. After those first 2 years, a teacher becomes, the word is, people use the word tenure all the time. We don't really have tenure in California. We have what's called permanent status. After 2 years of employment, a teacher receives their permanent status in the district. And those non-reelections are not performance-based. And let's see, what's the other part of the question? Could the teachers return to the district? If you're non-reelected from a district, that does not prevent you from reapplying in the same district down the line.
There's a couple of questions from Marcella. Yeah, the TK teachers don't always have early childhood education, which is specific to 4-year-olds. Also, does the aide have early childhood or credentials?
No, so quick response to that is that's one of the goals of the state, I think, is to really get a workforce. I think what happened, how we got TK is there was an effort to make universal preschool. Universal preschool didn't fly. So there became universal TK, which then what was added, and this has been over a period of a course of years, because TK used to also be pretty academic. And now it's become more play-based and more preschool founded. But that additional credentialing requirement was added on to multiple subject teachers. So the teaching credential for a preschool teacher is very different, doesn't require a bachelor's degree, it doesn't require state teaching credentials. So those are two very different credentials. And so our teachers can add the ECE units onto their credentials, but it is not required for any of their assistants or anything. So, you know, we hire, there's a 1 to 10 coming into next year, there's a 1 to 10 ratio, but the state doesn't specify exactly how that 1 to 10 ratio is met.
Great. I'm also seeing there's a Q&A section here as well, and there's a couple of questions on there. If TK happens, will anyone who is eligible be able to register regardless if they contributed money or not? The answer is yes, right?
Yes. Yep.
I think that's the same one here. Is there a deadline for parents to decide on TK once it is available?
I mean, no, once there's a rolling, I mean, this is part of the challenge, right? Of how do you know how many people to hire? And so we would be saying, yes, please let us know as soon as possible, because we need to hire for the children who register. And we'd be encouraging people to register, but there isn't a specific deadline. People could move into the neighborhood with a 4-year-old and we would enroll their child. It's just, and that's the hard part, you know, kind of when we look back at how did the history of TK arrive in our district? Well, originally it was a much narrower age window, right? And then the age continued to expand, but we really didn't have any demographic data around how many 4-year-olds did we have here. A lot of times families move in to the area from the city or from the valley just to raise their families here. So we don't have really good birth rate data. And that's how we got into a little bit of this conundrum where we have now potentially 12 to 14 classes with 2 adults in the class full day without a structural analysis that would tell us to project and budget for them. And we'd already committed to our K-8 program because those were, you know, how that was how districts operated up until very recently.
Right. All right, moving on. What do aftercare programs look like? So beyond the 230 or the 145?
That is a question we are still working on researching. I don't know, Natalie or Anna, if we were reaching out to Natalie might know because she's might be using them or might have used them, but we were reaching out to Bright Horizons, and that tends to be Bright Horizons in the city are the folks who usually enroll our children. The city has more flexibility, I think, in terms of spaces than Bright Horizons does. And of course, we have Strawberry Rec Center as well. And those are all sort of independent where you would sign up for those in addition. Again, you know, depending on facilities available, I think, you know, the Bright Horizons has like 1 classroom at each of our campuses, and those get, you know, impacted quite heavily. EDS, yes. And then the rec center, and then the city either comes to use some of our facilities or they come and walk the kids to their facilities. So again, something that, again, as we know the scope, we will obviously, you know, the city will be offering enrollment opportunities, and EDS will as well. Did I capture that?
West America is a great option too. We send
that's
our
right.
kids,
West America
yeah,
Taekwondo and Andrews. Yep, there
Andrews
were a couple.
Camp, yep.
There's
Thunder
one
Blast.
more,
Thunder Blast.
Thunder
yeah.
Blast, that's the other
Yeah,
one.
and Thunder Blast will come and pick kids up from schools. I think they have a different schedule depending on the day, but they will bring a van
and just from a parent perspective, so it's clear to parents, aftercare is a separate program not run by the school district, that is run by private entities. And so that is a little bit different at each site in terms of where things are picked up, where students can be picked up or what sites are there. And then based on those individual program staffing depends on what they can offer for that year in terms of spaces.
And Anna
Great.
says we're going to be putting a comprehensive guide on. This is kind of new to like since I've been on board, which is a year and 3/4 maybe. You know, there wasn't a lot of communication necessarily around how we were providing aftercare, but we've been trying to get ahead of it and really do our best to connect families with resources. I know the city has an interest in maybe expanding and doing some more work with us, so that would be another opportunity for us to sort of do a wraparound, which is what I'm more familiar with, like Boys and Girls Club being on your campus and that being part of the Parks and Rec work that just happens.
Right. Right. What does the transition from TK to K look like? I think there's a similar question here in the chat. Do you end up at the same school for TK and kindergarten?
Not always. Again, because if you're at Old Mill, you know, you would not have been there for TK. So as the program was growing again from 3 to 7 to 12 to 14, you know, it really just depends on where we can fit the classrooms and fit the kids. And so we don't promise the same site, kind of to Natalie's point about you drive somewhere else for preschool. It's ideal. I think when we do this, we will try to prioritize siblings to the extent we can first, and then, you know, and then see what we can do. But it's not necessarily the same campus, again, as we've not always offered it at all of our schools. And but the kids are, you know, they're well prepared for kindergarten. You know, it is a great entrance to a school environment for kids, and in a different way than, I mean, preschool is phenomenal in so many ways too. So it's, you know, there are gives and gets, but in this case, they're prepared.
And I will just add on, I think a lot of parents who have had their kids in TK and then maybe get used to a particular site and get embedded in the community there, then you feel like my kid has to go to this school. It might not be my neighborhood school. Each of our schools has so much to offer and such a different flavor. And the kids are so amazing at just being flexible and adapting. And this is like with the sports and different opportunities that you have to get your kids involved in things in the community. This is another thing that if you end up having your kid at a different TK in kindergarten, it's just a different opportunity for them to expand their friend network in their community, because keep in mind that as they go from 5th grade to 6th grade, then all the elementary schools come together. And so they are just better prepared with a larger community going into that if they do happen to end up with experience at different elementary schools as mine have. So I can personally attest to that being a benefit.
And Natalie, I'll add, as a parent whose kids are now in high school, yeah, it does follow through. So that is a really good point. You know, you end up meeting so many people, and then you end up maybe not seeing them for quite a few years, but then you come back together in the upper grades, and it's just nice to have really a pretty serious village out there once you really kind of embed yourself in the community.
To that end, I'm going to plug that we're building a middle school. We hope we're planning to build a middle school. Your kids will be the ones there, and I think that is what's really unique, and one of the reasons why we're really trying to keep 6th, 7th, and 8th grade together as we build a middle school, is because that is where children from 5 different schools come together to build a community before they go to a high school where there are multiple districts entering the system. So this is a phenomenal place to grow up. But there's a question, if we end up needing less for TK because of anticipated low enrollment. In this case, you know, first of all, we're trying to cobble together some additional funding to make the 2.2. So I think we would look at what funds are available. But generally, let's say we didn't have as many children as we projected, we would not take the money that we don't use, right? I mean, this is a donation for transitional kindergarten. We would take a donation to the district for transitional kindergarten, and the rest would remain with the 501c3 to distribute however folks, you know, engage in that.
Sounds good. And I think related to that is also the enrollment process. What does that look like? And I understand there's board action that's needed and so on. So just maybe speak to that.
So our planning has been that, you know, should we get to the dollar amount that we need to really make sure that we're not potentially putting other programs at risks ongoing, which will benefit your kids, I promise you, beginning in kindergarten. That we would, the board would need to take an action to reinstate. I would make a superintendent's recommendation, and the board would need to take action on that recommendation, and then we would open enrollment. Unfortunately, the system we have right now doesn't differentiate provisional enrollment from regular enrollment. So when you enter it, you're more or less providing all of your personal and private information, and we just didn't want people to go down that path with their children's private information until we knew that it was real. And again, we can't differentiate that for you. So our hope is it would be a quick turnaround. I think I'm looking at Kate right now. I think it might be a click of a button, but I don't know because I'm not the Aries expert. But
It is a
I think we can
straightforward.
make it live quickly.
Mhm.
And then, of course, for us, the larger issue is hiring. So
It's a single platform that enrolls everyone, and so there isn't a way to differentiate a different kind of enrollment for a specific grade.
Right.
Or different requirements. Everyone enrolls with the same thing.
So Kate, assuming if we move forward, then for you it's just single button, turn on, everybody goes on there.
Not quite,
So
but
that's-
essentially, yes, it
Right,
is
right, without
not a
getting into the
big
details.
process.
Yeah.
Yes.
And our
Okay.
goal would be to get people, I mean, obviously have people enroll as soon as possible, but maybe make the window, through the end of May or something. So potentially we could still have an idea. I mean, again, the sooner the better, but have an idea of, what schools children might be placed at and everything else before the end of the school year or soon thereafter, and then, so parents can begin planning as well. One thing I did want to mention, and one of the reasons why we, are saying, focusing right now on the 25-26 school year is because the nature of community funding is it creates an employment status where we would need to lay off everybody we hire this year. So this is it's not an easy choice to make without a real decision about how sustainable is it and when and how. So this is why we've been trying to be as consistent as we can. This is 25-26 because we want to honor the timeline and the communication from our end, and really support families, and knowing that it is really hard for you to come up with the funding, but also for us to look at where we would fund that without really impacting other programs. So
That's tied to a question in the Q&A that says,
Uh-huh.
if TK happens this year, what is the likelihood it will happen in future years?
I don't think we can answer that right now. I think there's information that, we have eliminated it as a grade level. We do not want to be in a situation where we're laying off up to 24 people annually. And we don't believe that we can sustain the budget that we have, and really prioritize small class sizes, targeted learning support, instructional assistance, and quite frankly, attracting and retaining highly qualified staff in a market where it's very competitive to hire people. So particularly having people come and be able to live and work near where they teach. So I don't have a solution for that deficit yet. So that's why we're also trying to be very transparent about it at this point.
Can I say something about small class sizes? Because I think maybe a lot of people on this call who don't have children in the school district yet, don't really understand what that means. And, I have 2 kids. One kid is the bubble year. It's the senior class this year. It's abnormally large. And so she always had larger classes. It was still small for standards across the state,
Yes.
So having 22, 23, like that's a really good, healthy size. Just, one county over in Sonoma County, Friends have 6th grade classrooms of 35 students, or, and it's a K through 6 too. So it's like having a 5th grade of 35 students. And it's it's significant. And I think if you're a TK, you know, you're just in preschool and this is your first foray into this, you don't really understand what that means, because if you haven't been in there with the kids, and you know, I went to a co-op preschool, so I actually was kind of in there with all the kids, got the TK level too. It really does make a huge difference, and it is incredibly valuable. It's an incredibly valuable asset to our school district that we want very much to keep.
Other questions?
There's a question in the chat. There's the April 4th deadline for the money, but when can families expect to know a final decision about TK happening or not?
I would say I mean, my hope is that sooner than that, but you know, as soon as the board, you know, should funding arrive, we will have a board meeting. We may have a board meeting discussing this one way or the other. I'm not sure, you know, maybe it may be on our regular April 3rd agenda. I don't want to speak for the board right now, but I'm making the assumption that you're going to get funded. You are very close. I think you had pledges. I'm hoping that the folks that are on the fence are feeling confident that, you know, we're going to do the very best we can to give your children the very best education, you know, in TK, but definitely, you know, well beyond, right? I mean, I want to make sure we preserve the integrity of all of our programs. So, you know, but as soon as the board decides, that would be, you know, decision, and I hate to make it contingent on fundraising and donations, but in this case, it is really beneficial for us to have a community that supports public education in the way that Kiddo does, and the way that this group is doing, and we've been able to do more as a community because of it. And so are other communities like Ross and some of the other communities that you know, have foundations and nonprofits that help. So the goal would be to let you know as soon as possible. We know spring break is right around the corner too, so we're hoping to be able to communicate in advance of spring break. But you know, we'll do
Can
what
I
we
add
can.
something to that? Because when you know, we spoke with Sid and Michael the other day, and a lot of you who may be totally new to school board meetings and school board meeting schedules and the differences between a
Oh, that's right.
regularly scheduled board meeting and something called a special meeting, is that if we see this, you know, it's got a lot of traction, it's going in the right direction. If this continues for through the weekend and there's some significant movement, we can have a special meeting earlier than our regularly scheduled April 3rd board meeting, where the single agenda item could be, you know, consider planning for, you know, now that we've got kind of movement and everything. So we could hold that, and I just want to let everybody know, we don't necessarily have to wait till April 3rd. We could, but we could also do it sooner, which would be maybe, you know, better for planning and everything if we can. So it's an option.
And the way that works is there's a 24-hour timeline. So you would see an agenda come out saying something like, you know, approve superintendent's recommendation to reinstate TK for the 25-26 school year, or consider approval of. So please don't everybody freak out if there's a short-term agenda that comes out. It's just a 24-hour turnaround, and that's how we agendize ordinarily. Ordinarily, it's a 72-hour window. We always try to get our agendas out on Friday, so that families, you know, can have a weekend to review information and then join us for a Monday drop-in call if you want to. There's a question about class sizes. We're talking about a class of, yes, it's 20 children in a class with 2 adults for the 1-to-10 ratio. And then focus is what changed the focus and not wanting to do this. Sorry, not wanting to do this is one time. I'm not sure I'm following.
While you're processing that, there's also one about class sizes. Yes, a class of 20 with 1 certificated employee and 1 classified employee in order to meet the state's ratio of 1-to-10 is what that would mean.
Okay.
And I think, Elizabeth, that just is what, are you good on that question now?
No.
So what changed the focus from the district not wanting to make a one-time choice to now looking at the possibility of a one-time choice for 25, 26 without knowing future year possibilities?
I it's this group of people, right? I mean, it's hard. There's no world where any of this isn't heartbreaking, right? Like there's no cuts. I mean, I wish I could bring back EL specialists. I wish I could, there's so many wishes that I have, but I feel like we have to apply the same standard if we're willing to take donations for art and music. It seems to me like we would be legitimate in taking donations for a program. The challenge is just that the way the kiddo funding structure is, they always have reserves that then can guarantee funding, so we don't have to worry about layoffs. And in this case, laying off 24 people or 12 people or 22 people is just, it's really damaging to a system. And so I think we had to do a lot of soul searching, and this community is showing up for kids, and I think that's we're doing our best to meet those needs. Looks like Michael has his hand up.
And can I just,
Yeah, please,
I just want
please
to add
jump
really
in.
quickly and apologize that I went off screen in the midst of doing a little shuttling. But I think at the end of the day, we are trying to balance, our fiscal responsibilities to the district and the community, and also want to come up with something that is a sustainable solution. And right now, with the state of our deficit, and that being a priority to help resolve and retain the integrity of the K-8 programming, this amazing community coming together and helping to at least solve in the short term the a dollar issue and kiddo stepping in, that's made for a short-term solution. If there were a long-term solution that we could sort out, that would be amazing. But this maybe buys some additional time to talk through options. But at least for right now, being able to have dollars there, which is the primary, a primary driver, and trying to make sure that we don't leave the district and your children and the rest of their education in our district in a bad situation. That's kind of all the things that we've been trying to balance. And so this is a amazing community coming together for a short-term solution.
Natalie, I really, really appreciate you stating that, honestly, because you all heard it directly from a trustee and board member right now. You all heard it from Dr. Kaufman. You've heard it from Sharon, the president. You've heard it from EK's staff here, right? They are working with us as hard as they can to bring this together. And it is now up to us and the community to work as hard as we can to close that gap that we have. And we are so, so close. And I think that when Sid and I hopped on the phone with Kaufman and team earlier this week, we felt, and no offense, EK, for the first time, we felt you guys that were on our side, right? Like truly,
We have to be vague. When the world's coming to an end, we have to be vague. I know.
But I want to say there's only one side, and it's the side of
I know.
students.
Of the kids, yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Thank you, Sharon, for even calling that out. And so I want everybody here to say that this community, and it is the leadership here that is on this call, right? And this community that's all listening to it, it's now up to us. And I couldn't agree more with what Natalie just said, which is like, I know there's many parents here that are wondering what's going to happen to next year, but we have an entire year and a half to figure that out. And we're so appreciative in this short time frame that we were able to figure out something for this year. And since Kaufman's team and the board was able to figure out this in such a short amount of time for this year, imagine what the possibility is that they can figure out for next year, right? And I just wanted to recap that for everybody here, because we're doing it. There's no choice. Like if there's, we're making this happen, right?
Me goosebumps. I mean, I just, for me, I take I take my responsibility as the in loco parentis for your children very, very seriously. And I think you all saw the personal toll that running this system takes when you're a humanist. There is no, like in our world, there's no way to find extra revenue, right? Like we're not entrepreneurial. We're service oriented and we want to serve. So just the complementary skill set that came together, and really as a model, more and more as funding to school districts is less and less available, potentially, communities, may be leaning in more. And, this is a great opportunity for us to look at what our priorities are and come together as every group that supports schools to get that big picture, which is sort of what we've been trying to say, whether it's in a budget discussion or this discussion, like, what are our priorities? We can do anything we want. We can't do everything. We've really got to come together as a team and determine, what is that order of operations and how are we sequencing supports? Because again, in this community in particular, we can do anything we want. I think we just need to plan it and be aware of where we're headed. So my gratitude to all of you for your patience in this journey. I hope we get there. I still haven't given up in my head all sorts of ways of serving kids, but again, I'm glad that you are carrying this load right now while we try to get into next year for some of the other programmatic changes that we need to make as well, with some significant cuts. So thank you. And you have my number. Call, text, do whatever. I'm available.
Can I just
And
say
thank you.
one other closing
Uh-huh.
thing? I know that sometimes people type questions in the chat and then we inadvertently miss it. So I'm going through, I'm not seeing anything that we've missed. But I don't want anyone to walk away from this thinking like, oh, they just didn't answer my question. So quickly chime in if you have a question. Otherwise, Elizabeth just said exactly how you could reach her. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you all. All right. Come back tomorrow for
Amazing.
Sid and Michael.
Yeah, and
Thank you for
just a
jumping.
note. No, of course, and just maybe a note on how the recording is going to be shared. Maybe Anna, this for you.
Anna will share it, how she's going to share it.
Okay. Once we have closed this meeting, I will then download this. I will upload it into our YouTube. By the time I've driven home to Petaluma, it should be processed, and I will then post it on the website, and I will send you guys the link, and then you can share it with your people.
Thank
Awesome.
you so much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you
This was
to our
great.
staff and parents who have been here. I know our staff has been with us on this journey, and it's very unsettling. So again, I appreciate those of you who are on our team who are taking time. I can see a ton of you right now, and parents who've just been with us for this entire journey, whether it's about TK or budget. So thank you again for joining and learning and helping us get better at our messaging and what we do. So thank you. Have a good night. Probably bedtime, story
Thanks, Paul.
time, dinner time. Right.
Which